No, I think I just can project really well. Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming and being a part of our panel, What It Means to Be an Artist and Songwriter in Our Current Marketplace. My name is Adriana Gonzalez, I'll be one of the moderators today.
Thank you, and my name is Ron Harris. I'm just her henchman here, so I'm just going to cheer her on along the way. But actually, I'm one of the moderators, so.
Not really. But we are all, every single one of us on this panel today is a part of a brand new music school in Los Angeles that focuses entirely on artist development and pop vocals. It's called HVS Conservatory, so please follow us on social so you can keep up to date with all of our events, and hopefully we'll see you in LA at one of them. So I'd like to start introducing our panel today. First, we've got Bob Cutarella. Bob Cutarella is a legendary 2-time Grammy winner with more than 3,000 recorded songs as a publisher and over 160 platinum records. He has signed and developed writers and garnered hits with Chaka Khan, Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, Michael Henderson, Diana Ross, Dolly Parton, The Police, Elton John, R.E.M., Linda Ronstadt, Frank Sinatra, and actually way more than that, but I won't bore you. And Bob has also worked as an executive in many areas in the music industry. And he had a successful legacy as vice president of Sony Records. Please welcome Bob Cutarella to the stage.
Fantastic. I mean, I gotta tell you, I'm so excited. This is our second year here. So this is really, really outstanding to see it growing. So, I mean, I really appreciate you guys being here. And thank you once again to the NAMM Foundation for letting us be a part of this. So the next writer that I would like to introduce to you, her name is Sam DeRosa. And Sam DeRosa is a multi-platinum songwriter and recording artist from New York. She most recently was nominated for a Grammy in 2023 and has penned hits for Lovely the Band, Broken, Dixie D'Amelio, Be Happy, BB Rexa, Snoop Dogg, go ahead Sam, you do your thing, go ahead, Lucas Graham, Jonas Blue, and many more. People in Billboard magazines have named Sam as this year's artist to watch, so let's give a warm welcome for Sam DeRosa. All right, fantastic. So the next artist that I'm going to introduce to you, her name is Sizzy Rocket, and I've known Sizzy for quite a while, and God knows I love her to death, right? I will tell you that. And so it's like the ultra-talented Sizzy Rocket has written for artists like Noah Cyrus, Blue the Tiger, Uffy, Hey Violet. She attended the Clive Davis Institute of Recorded Music at New York, and anybody, I don't know why I'm stumbling today, and was signed with Universal Music Group until deciding to go fully independent. Sizzy currently spends most of her time writing hits for her well-known artists, on tour, and coaching songwriting at HVS Conservatory, and having dinner with me, right? Because we love to eat, right? We're foodies for sure. Please welcome Sizzy Rocket.
And we have the ever so talented Iman Jordan. He's currently signed with Sony Music, previously at Interscope Records. His songwriting talents have graced tracks for Rihanna, Alicia Keys, The Internet, Jasmine Sullivan. He's also signature sound of Hulu's Whatever You're Feeling fall campaign, and has been featured on TV shows like Showtime's The Chi, Fox's Empire, and ABC's Station 19. Please welcome Iman Jordan to the stage. So I just want to take another moment to thank all of you amazing panel members. You love you so much. Thank you for being a part of this. So Ron and I are going to ask them a bunch of questions that we think you would be interested in knowing. And then the last 15 minutes, we'll open it up to the audience for you to ask them whatever you'd like. So just keep that in mind, okay? Ron, would you like to start?
Yeah, you know, one of the things that I like to do usually in doing these panels is just get the temperature of the room real quick. So how many songwriters do we have here? Ooh, I think it's gonna be good. How many artists do we have? Ooh, this is good. How many producers do we have? Okay, all right. Producers meet artists, artists meet producers, meet songwriters. Okay, so we're gonna get right to it. Is that okay? All right, so the first question I'm gonna ask, and this is for Sam, right? So I'm gonna make it like just a two-part question. Is you okay with that? So first question is, do you write for artists? And how do you juggle writing for other artists and also independently releasing your own music?
All right. Hi guys, I'm Sam. So yes, I write for other artists, and I feel like you can answer this too because you have an artist project. I do write for artists all the time. I write for and with artists. Sometimes it's a pitch song, sometimes I'm in the room and I get the chance to meet them, which is, I take that as such a privilege that I'm very thankful to have sometimes. I think with an artist project, I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this as songwriters. I think you already are an artist if you write songs. You have a style of writing the same way that we know a John Bellion song when we hear one. At least I do, right? I'm like, oh, that's definitely Sia, or that's Ed Sheeran. You know, because they have a style of writing. So I think that what made me start my artist project was that I just got so sad writing all these songs, feeling like they were living in a Dropbox graveyard, that I was like, what would happen if I just put stuff out myself? So sometimes I will write a song for somebody else and love it so much that I believe if it's meant to be, it'll be. I put it out, I pitch it, and if nobody takes it, I know it's meant to come back to me. I think it's really important to not have an ego when you have an artist project with songs, because I always say, Beyonce wants it, you know, she can have it. So, but I think with my artist project, it depends. If I'm making a body of work, I take time off, and I'll say, okay, for the next 3 months, I need to be in Sam land, otherwise I'm gonna get really confused. But when it's pitch, I actually find myself being really inspired writing for a lot of things at once. I think it really helps recharge my artist battery, if that makes sense.
Fantastic. Do you have anything you want to comment on that, Sis?
Yeah, I started the opposite. I was an artist first and then ended up writing songs. But yeah, I feel like it all kind of goes together, you know? Yeah.
Great.
Amazing, thank you. This one's for Bob. Bob, what differentiates a songwriter from an artist? And then this is also going to be, no, actually, that's it.
That's it?
That's it.
What differentiates
A songwriter from an artist, actually no, this is 2 parts. And when do you know a songwriter is special?
It's intangible. I mean, and I said it before when we were having a round table discussion. You feel it. There's something special about a lyricist who's just unique, like a Sia. Somebody who moves you and you have a visceral response to. And the difference between a songwriter and an artist, not everybody can get up on the stage.
See, this is how you know he's not a singer. That's how you know.
Many years since I sang, many years. All right. So for me, the difference between a songwriter and an artist is a lot of times an artist encompasses many different facets. An artist can perform live. A songwriter necessarily doesn't perform live. They can convey what they're trying to say. They can convey what their vision of a song is, but not necessarily be the person that has to be up front. And you see that quite often when you see the amount of songwriters that are out there that have never been on a stage, but they're just brilliant the way they put their compositions together, you know. So I think there's the differentiation for me. But when it comes to choosing songwriters and when it comes to seeing a real artist perform, you kind of feel it more than anything. At least I feel it more than anything. There's no book or anything that says, okay, you know, this is what an artist does, this is what a songwriter does. As a matter of fact, a lot of times when I'm teaching songwriting or discussing songwriting, what I realize is all the formulas that have been out there and all these books on formulas, it's the ones that break the formula that make the difference. So for me, when somebody says, well, you have to do an A, B, and A, B, well, you might do that. You might do an A, B, C, whatever structure, but you might not. You might do 4 verses and still make it, like Drake. I was talking about Drake before. Sometimes it's just a continuum, you know, but he makes it work. And great. Now that's artistry and songwriting, so that's both. But they make it work.
You know, the thing, just to add to something that Bob was saying, is like, you know, you can write a great song, you can be a great songwriter, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're an artist, right? So when we're trying to look at the difference, when you've done A&R and you're looking for something special, it's that intangible, right? So break it down, right? So say if you walk into a room, are you looking at the room to see who's there, or does the whole room turn around and look at you? And that's, you know, if you use that as your North Star, because usually A&R people, that's, you know, when someone walks in, that person may be talking about what they're doing, but we're trying to look for that feeling, because something happens, right? Something happens to us when we see a true artist. And it's just like when you meet a new friend, you're going, oh my gosh, their vibe was great, I love that. It's the same thing, right? But just in the record world.
You know, if I can interject too.
Yeah.
Some people are really, really amazing at writing, and they feel like they're artists, and yet their voice might not really be able to compete. They don't have an identifiable voice, and I know a lot of times you sit there, and it's the hardest thing in the world to sit. Know you want to sign this person, but as a songwriter, and not necessarily as an artist, and you know that they are the kind of person that could turn heads, but they just don't have that ability, you know. And what do you say to them, you know? Because it's bold, it's audacious for somebody to say, hey, by the way, I don't think your voice is going to make it. But you want to be honest when you're an A&R person, as we've been. You want to be totally honest with them and say, you know what, I think you're an amazing songwriter, and I think if you put your energy there and maybe concentrate on being an artist later, you know, you might develop a uniqueness to yourself that uniqueness may come out later, and it's not necessarily apparent right away. So focus on the songwriting. If they can handle that, you know, it's hard enough to say it as an executive or a producer, but if they can handle it, you know, they might take it in a different light, and it might focus them and put them in a direction they need to be.
I was gonna,
Yeah.
I mean, actually, I got a question for you next. You got your mic?
You can ask a question for me.
What did you-
Well, I thought it was really interesting when you said something about everyone turns and looks at that person in the room. And so sometimes it's kind of hard as an artist because you want that feeling, you want to be able to walk in a room and be magnetic. But I want to just put it out there that what really makes you more magnetic is you really owning the uniqueness of who you are. And that's something that I've had to like realize throughout my entire career, is that every time I put that thing that I thought I needed to be outside of myself, that it was always chasing a moving target, you know? The people that really are magnetic, that walk in a room, that make a difference, are the people that actually value their own unique stories, their unique voices, and that's what makes a great songwriter, because they can talk, they can speak about just, you know, making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, something that's so mundane, but they can make it into something that everyone can identify with. And those, yeah, and hungry. That's it. I'm hungry, I want a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and then the room is like, amen. You know what I mean? So it's really about figuring out what you have inside that is so unique to you, and then actually like loving the shit out of it, you know? And loving the flaws and all of that kind of stuff. And that exudes out when you're walking into a space and even expressing your artistry.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that.
I know.
I say one thing because I love you. I think as a songwriter, it's just always important to remind yourself you have to make the music that you need to make, not that you think you need to make or that you think you have to make. It's just poison for you of finding your voice and finding your sound and finding what makes you a good songwriter. And I think as an artist, we all want to, you know, everybody wants to be quote unquote famous, right? Everyone wants to be known in some way, whatever that word means to you. Nobody wants to be broke and struggling. And most of the people that make it are broke way longer than they've ever been rich. I think the time that you spend getting to know yourself is what actually makes you interesting. So, and like going off of what he's saying is so real. The more that you spend time with your art and with your vision and what it is, it will radiate off of you without you even realizing it, because that is what you will be giving out from spending time learning and loving yourself and what you create as a songwriter or an artist or both, whatever you are.
Oh my goodness, they've given me chills up and down my body for the last 2 minutes. I love it.
That's the zen
Yeah.
of just being an artist.
Yeah.
I mean, It's said so beautifully, too.
Well, the other thing, just like, you know, and what you guys are hearing is you got to know what your truth is, and you got to own your truth, right? And you've got to be honest about it. So he talks about, well, if you're writing about peanut butter and jelly roll, guess what? We were so poor growing up, we had mayonnaise sandwiches, right? So maybe that might be my truth, right? And then somebody hears it and goes, yeah, you know what? We did the same thing too, right? Because if it's honest, and if you embrace what you are, where you've been, then that way people will resonate towards it, they will go towards it, they will gravitate towards it, so it'll be great. So a question for you, Iman, since we were talking, right? And speaking of artists, right? So in thinking about artists that you know or that you've worked with that were there already, you said they were established artists, and you got an opportunity to be in that room and write with these artists. This would be the question, and I'm sure you guys may be thinking what I'm about to ask. How did you get in the room? How did that get arranged for you, right? And I'm sure you can all speak of this, but how did you get in the room with that artist to write for them?
Well, I hate to say it, but it's usually been by accident. So I know that kind of sucks because you're like, well, I want the blueprint. And it's not really the blueprint. It's really about, every day I was making music. I mean, I was doing my art. I started off as an artist as well, just doing just the artistry stuff. And most of my songs that I've gotten placed by bigger artists, say the Rihanna song with Desperado and also with Jasmine Sullivan, have been songs that were my own songs. So they were like original songs that somehow were made it. Maybe I worked with a producer and, you know, it wasn't really me. I got dropped from Interscope, and so they were like, oh, let's take this song and start shopping it. And then I'll get a call like, hey, you know what? This song is on Rihanna's album. So it's kind of like, it's been kind of weird things like that. But the cool thing about that is that a lot of times when like I'm trying to like get something placed, when I'm really, really working to get into a room, a lot of times it doesn't really work out that great, you know? But when I'm kind of just showing up every day in my process of making music and creating with people that I like to create with, for some reason that kind of leads to me being in those spaces. In particular, like the Alicia Keys, I wrote with Alicia Keys. I was signed to her producer, her longtime producer, Carrie Crucial Brothers, for a while, and that got me in the room there. And even with that case, we wrote a song for the album. It didn't make it. Then 4 years later, she performed it on Empire. You know, so it's a lot of times it's like the things that we think that we have might change over into something else, and you just never really can call it. For instance, I had a single on Ella Henderson that I thought was just going to be, you know, it changed my life a lot, like a lot. And we waited 2 years. She had the song for 2 years, and then she got dropped. And it was just like, okay, well, that's it, you know? But that's the music industry too, it's just because you can never really call it, you know? The placement I got on the internet was because I was randomly working on Kelly Rowland's project, and then Sid came by, and I met her there, and she was like, one day said, come by my house, and I was like, okay, cool. So it's been very, very like these kind of other moments, which there's a book real quick called The Third Door, which I think is so good. And I think you should read it. And basically, those short stories that he writes a book and he finds that the most successful people find that the biggest opportunities for them came through these third door moments. Like when you're going to the club, you're trying to get in the club, the line is long in the first door, so you can't go through the first door. Then the rich people can pay off the doorman, they can get through the second door. But a lot of times, sometimes you get into the club through the kitchen, the third door, you know, somebody knew somebody that worked in janitor, you know what I mean? And a lot of times that's how these things happen. And so sometimes it can be a scary thing because it's not so clear, but also it actually can be a really enlightening thing because what it really is talking about is possibilities. Is that the possibilities of you getting in the room with anybody is endless, just kind of got to be open to it and work with people you love.
Can I add something to that? Absolutely. I think there's another component to that too, which is just like being ready when that door opens. Yes. You know, you're at the club, you have to have the dress on, you have to ready for that door to open and then run through it.
That's it.
And that's what we were talking about earlier today, is like the fact that a lot of the artists right now are not prepared for that door, right?
Yes.
And that artist development isn't there. They get the opportunity, but then they're like, oh, but I only have that one song. You know what I mean? And that can be so detrimental because sometimes you only get to walk through that door once. You know? So you just make sure as an artist that you are so over-prepared that you are ready for anything that comes.
The world is lacking in the way it used to be in the business, where there used to be A&Rs and publishers and record execs who would bet their entire career on a song, on a person, and say, I'm gonna give it time because it's gonna work. So what happens now is you, unfortunately, as the artist, as the writer, as the producer, you have to do it all, right? You're a videographer, you're a marketing director, you're a writer, you're a singer, and guess what? You're also a hair and makeup artist too. You're doing it all, right? So you have to give that love and that energy into yourself. Treat yourself like a startup business. Like every single move you are making is because you have to create that one-stop shop for yourself. What does it look like? What does it feel like? What's the live show like? If you're a performer, if you're a songwriter, what's the sound? What is it? Because it sucks that there's nobody there to tell you and help you and believe the way that it used to be. Like these guys, it sounds like you were one of the best. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. But it's like one viral song is not indicative of you being a superstar or even it being a hit. It means nothing. It's the algorithm, right? So what else can you do? Treat yourself like a business. Be your own team for now. And then be so undeniably good that you know exactly what that sounds like and you are ready when it happens.
I think you're so dead on. It's amazing. No, yeah.
I'm sweating, so.
We're all sweating up here. It's like a tanning booth with those. But basically, because I'm probably the oldest person in the room, and I've been around a long time in the industry, I've seen a lot of these shifts. And what you're saying is very profound. Most people don't look at our business as a business. You know, to the outside world, it's a playpen. They think, you know, we play around all day. But I don't realize that even this whole DIY thing, you have to really, really understand multiple facets. Number one, exactly what you said. You have to be that person prepared for all of it. Now, do you have somebody who guides you in that process? Do you have a mentor? Do you have someone who can really sit there and say, hey, you know what? Maybe if you shifted and went this way instead of that way, that might be a quicker route. I don't know. But that's a really important thing to understand, that it's a business. Second thing is, everybody keeps talking about it, and it's great to hear, especially from a newer generation of songwriters and artists and producers, that they understand that there's this, I don't want to say spiritual aspect, but there's a spiritual aspect to what you do. You have to, you know, everybody talks about being prepared. You also, as a person, have to be in a state of mind where you're available for opportunity. So, in a way, you have to be in moments. And people don't talk about this. When you read a book about the music industry, you don't really hear about living in a moment. But you have to be in the moments. We were talking about moments before, saying, how amazing is it when you experience something where you're in a great recording session with one of the people you admire so much, and an artist that you think is amazing, and they're making a hit record or whatever they're doing, and you're just sitting there going, I wish I could scream this to the world. But if you weren't aware, if you weren't available for that, and being in moments, it would probably just pass you by. And so there's this kind of a spiritual training that goes on in a, maybe you don't do it knowingly, or maybe you do. Maybe you look at this as a spiritual activity. I always looked at it as, okay, this is exciting, this is this and that. And I realized as I kept going on that all the experiences were they filled me up with so much that, you want to share it. You just want to share it with people. And you hope that you can impart enough wisdom, to understand that.
Thank you. Well, and once again, what he's talking about is the number one thing for people discovering music, discovering artists, is word of mouth. Number one way. So, I know we have TikTok, Instagram, all of that, but, tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend. That is it. That's the number one way. So thank you for sharing that, and thank you for sharing that moment. And I know me and Sizzy talk about this. When I go see an artist and I see someone new, I need you to take me on that journey.
Yeah.
Take me away from where I'm at. I want to go where you are. I want to go to that place when you're dreaming about being a superstar. You're dreaming about, man, if I did this, just give me my shot. I'm up on that stage, I'm doing the thing, right? And that's what makes it special for us in having that spiritual moment, right? So keep that in mind as you're working towards your careers. So I got a question for you, Sizzy. I know I can see you looking at me like, oh, what, right? And if you've ever seen Sizzy, or if you haven't seen Sizzy, go see Sizzy.
I'm not in my work clothes right now.
I know. So let me tell you, she takes you away completely, and that's why I love her so much. I'm sitting there feeling like, it lets me go back to that moment of really enjoying music, right? So here's a question for you. So you've written with artists, right? So when they call you for a session, tell me like your process. So. And here is the question that I want you to answer. So the first thing is, do you have a formula for that process? How much of the song do you write prior to working with a known artist? Because this is important, because some of them don't want the whole thing. They want their writer's part on it. And if you do have sessions that are like that, where do you leave off? Like, what part do you write the verses and say, well, maybe I'll let the bridge go or something like that?
Man, okay. Well, first of all, working with every artist is different. Talk about like being in the moment. It's like you really have to be present with that artist. I try to gauge how they process, how they write music. My formula, I have my pre-studio routine. I get up early, I have to work out, I have to meditate, I have to eat breakfast. I have to get in that mindset. I also like to bring in references. I like to steal songs. So I'll pull up, I'll look up the artist. I don't like to be too researched or too, I want them to tell me who they are. I don't want to look them up and decide who they are. So I like to, just listen to one of their songs and kind of gauge what sound they're into, who their influences are. And then I bring in my 3 references. I try to have a little bit of vision when I go in, like, oh, if it's, I just worked with this up-and-coming artist, Isaac Dunbar, on his next single, dropping tonight at midnight. It's called Apartment A. And when I looked him up, I was like, wow, this is like New York disco. This is like The Rapture, this band, The Rapture. This is like LCD Sound System. Let me sort of bring my vision into the session and just play it for him and see what he thinks. So, I go in the session in the right mindset with my references, and I played this Rapture song that I love, and he reacted to it. And he was like, whoa, let's do some disco shit like that. So then how he likes to work is, I never come in with concepts pre-done or anything pre-done, because I feel like it's sort of like you're assuming what the session is going to be like. So, he likes to just sort of vomit into a Google Doc, and then I'll sort of sing out melodies, and he'll be like, I like that one. So we'll go with that melody, and then I'm sort of looking at the Google Doc, like fitting in his words to my melodies, and that's like one of the most interesting ways that I've worked that I love. But then other artists, come in and they're just like, what do you got, Sizzy? Like, write it for me.
Give me the whole thing.
Give me the whole thing, which there's no better or worse way to do it. It just really depends on the artist and listening to them and what they want and who they are. So it's a good answer.
Now, I want to say something that's a little bit off course for this, but working in publishing for years, early on, it was all about pitching songs to artists. Now, today you're writing with the artist more than you are pitching songs for an artist. But one helpful hint, if you are pitching for somebody, and hypothetically Celine Dion, don't give her a demo that sounds exactly like her, or a singer that sounds like her. The last thing in the world she wants to hear is somebody that sounds like her. Give her a great song, but don't give her something that sounds like her. And people, all the time, they come to me, well, I made this demo, and it's perfect for blah, blah, blah. And I had this discussion the other day, and I was trying to explain to the artist, maybe not. Maybe you need to just give them something great that they can feel, that they think that they can interpret, you know?
Yeah, I call that on the nose. You don't want to be too on the nose,
Yeah.
you know, with the writing. But yeah, a great song will, you know, artists know when they hear a great song, when they hear a great idea. And I also, sometimes I'll just start with a really ridiculous lyric, just to sort of break the room. Because, you know, the artist is nervous, I'm nervous, maybe we haven't met, you know, so I'll just say something really out there so that they kind of like ease up and they feel like they can tell me anything, they can get intimate with their lyrics. I've had artists cry, it's like, okay, we're going there today, like, you know, let's do this. So,
That's
yeah,
really good
yeah,
advice.
it's about listening, I think.
I mean, did you guys take that in, right, what she was saying? That's really incredible feedback for you songwriters, just to understand how to navigate the room, because it's really important. And just to add to that, you know, and talking about writers, when you go into the room, imagine the room has 100%. Right? So you got to know what to give to that room when you come in. Because if they're giving 100% and then you try and give 100%, guess what's going to happen? It's not going to work out. So you got to gauge the room. You go, oh man, today Sandy's on fire. She's doing 90%. So all I got to do is bring 10 today, right? And so you got to know that moment, right? Read the room. Don't think you're going to come in there going, I got 100%. This is me. This is all me. So learn that along the way, and that's going to, you know, teach you to go really, really far in this business.
Real quick, because sometimes you'll go into a session and some artists really don't want you to tell them what to do. They just want you to tell them that what they just did was a good idea. You know what I mean? So sometimes songwriting for an artist is like, yo, that is crazy. Oh man, yes, when you said that word. And then, you know, because as soon as you come up with, what about this? And I'll be like, no. You know, because they're like kind of like cut off from that. So you can just kind of tell, like, okay, she's not trying to get, you know, she's not trying to take my idea. She wants to be like someone to bounce her idea off of.
But it's tough though, because I'm also sitting there going, okay, RCA Records needs a single out of this session, and I want to get that single, so there's that angle, but then I want, obviously the artist feeling like they're expressing themselves comes first, so just like balancing all of those things, and then also ranking the song.
I always say that my joke is always like, be the homie first. Like, you might not get the best song. To what Sizzy's saying, it's hard because you're getting told, oh, I really need it to be the single. I know so-and-so has a really good one with them. But if the artist likes you, you have no idea how much more valuable that is. I used to always go in there like, I need to get a great song with so-and-so because this is my one day with BB and I've heard BB's tough, oh my God. And I remember instead, I was like, I'm just gonna be her friend. I would rather this person like me and want me to come back, because if we don't get a good song but you loved me, I know that you'll love me enough to try again. And at this point, you gotta trust yourself. Hey, I'm clearly in this room because I must be good. So I'm just gonna trust that. But think about it like if you were trying to make friends at a mixer, or you're introducing yourself to your boyfriend's friends and you want them to like you. You wanna find common ground, right? So find something in common. What Sizzy was saying is such good advice. The second you're vulnerable, you make people feel safe. Sometimes, whether it's like you shit out a terrible lyric just because you want them to feel comfy, that's great advice. And last thing, sorry again, I just feel like sometimes being a hit songwriter and being the best songwriter is knowing when to say nothing and knowing when to just let the room do its thing, because ego is so the enemy where you want to be right. You'll find those songwriters that'll be like, that's my chorus. That's my pre actually. Oh yeah, it was my concept. And when I first started, I used to do that. I was just proud. And you realize really quickly, a good song is like watching the Nutcracker. It's like a perfect dance. You have no idea. Everyone's in perfect time. We don't know who the star is. We have no clue. It just sounds and looks great. And that, if you did that, you win. That's everything.
Before we open it up to the audience, I want to ask you one more question. Some of you are signed, some of you aren't. So, what made you want to go after a publishing deal or be signed or have that, big human or machine over you? And what made you want to go independent?
And before you answer, let me just put another question with that. Does everyone here know what a publishing deal is? So raise your hand if you don't. Okay, because I want to make sure that people understand what a writing publishing deal is in the simplest.
Thank you for raising your hands. Don't ever ask as many questions as you can. That's how you learn.
And this is how you learn, and we're trying to make sure that you're educated, that you're not guessing, oh, they all have publishing deals. What the hell is that, right? How did they get there? Maybe I need me one of them there publishing deals, right? So we're going to just get a brief summary of what a publishing deal actually is, which I know Bob is going to be great at that, right? And then they will answer the questions for you, so then that way you'll have a better understanding of what it is.
There's a million different types of publishing deals out there. And publishing is, the ownership of the copyright that you create. The minute you write a song, you own it. You publish it until it ends up with a publisher. Are you all signed publishers?
Yeah, no, I was. I'm
Okay. So it's great and it's unique to have 3 songwriters on a panel that are signed to publishing companies. And I'm sure each one of you have different deals. Sometimes a publishing deal can be 1 term, could be 2 terms. It's not dictated by years necessarily. It's dictated by commitment of wholly owned songs. So if you write with 3 people, a 10-song commitment is 30 songs.
If you have 50%.
Yeah.
But if you don't have.
Yeah. So it's one thing I learned in publishing: when 7 people are in a room, split it 7 ways. You can't get into what they do in Broadway. They count, how many words, and that's worth X percent. It's the worst thing in the world when people get crazy like that. And I was at MCA Publishing years ago, which is Universal Publishing, and it was when hip hop was just becoming, just blowing up all over. And sometimes the drug dealer walks in, the person who's delivering the food, and all of a sudden you got 7 writers. How did this happen? The weed dealer got there.
That's right.
Just dropped off a bag of weed. How did he get 10%?
It's so the truth, right?
I literally had to create split sheets,
Yeah.
which you guys probably use now,
Split sheets.
because we were having so many problems, because the people would come out, I wrote that song, and so a publishing deal can consist of you signing over X percentage of your songs. It could be 50%, it could be 25%. And administration deals are a little different, where they just collect your money. Co-publishing deal is a deal where they co-publish with you, so they're your partner technically, and they're more apt in a co-publishing deal to pitch your songs for film and television because they have more invested in you than an admin deal. Admin deals are just collection deals where they collect your money all over the world. And every territory outside of the United States is called a sub-territory. It's sub-publishing. So we have a publishing deal, we have co-publishing deals, we have administrative deals, and sub-publishing deals outside of the United States because we live here. It would be too much for me to get to.
Right.
Think of it like a record deal for a songwriter. That's what I always say.
Really,
A record deal for a songwriter in some way. They offer you a certain amount of money, and there's certain terms attached to it, and you have to make your money back before you can move on to the next option of your deal, which is what he was saying. So most people get signed to like a 2-year, 2-term option. So like you get signed, cool, for $100,000, and then XYZ has to happen. You have to make that money back and fulfill whatever requirements are in your contract before you can move to your next option. And your next option is more money that you've already pre-negotiated. It's like a video game. Once you get through level 3 and you're done, you're free. You can move on to another publishing deal, and you can just keep going from there. It's like fun, but if you get stuck, it can really be tough. But
I don't know. It's almost like, but do you ever feel like you're ever winning? That's the thing.
it's
That's the thing. It's like a video game. You don't know if you're
literally,
ever
I don't
really
know.
winning.
They're advancing you your own money, so it's money
Right.
that they think you're worth. That's why you don't, I said this last time, and it apparently went a little viral on TikTok. You don't sign a pub deal unless you need the money or you have a hit and the money is life-changing. Because if you do not make that money back, or you blow it all, or your terms are crazy, terms, for example, is like, some publishing companies are crazy. They'll be like, oh, it only counts towards recoupment if the album goes gold, and only in the US, and EPs don't count.
Major artists,
I know
major
someone in a real
label.
deal like that, so you gotta be so mindful. So before you go buy that Tesla, someone commented online, like, why would you buy a Tesla? Who would do that? I would. I'd be like, I just made 150 grand, I'm rich. not knowing that I have to make that money back and you get no more until you keep,
No more.
until the video game advances. Yeah.
The other part of it is too, is a lot of times they could make coterminous deals with publishing company and a record company if you're an artist, and then they'll start taking the money away from you. If your publishing deal gives you $150,000, your record deal gives you $300,000, and your publishing deal, you're doing wonderfully, but your record deal, you lost money, but they're connected, then they'll take money from your publishing money to pay back the record company because you're signed as an artist. So you have to have a great attorney is what it comes down to.
That's really, really
That's
good.
what it comes down to.
Before, I know we have questions, so I will really quick. Tell them, everybody say what label you were signed to, if you still are, and what club you were at.
Okay, so I started off signed to MySpace Records for a single deal back in the day. That's how I started. Crazy. I was the violinist, like on the Titanic while I was sinking. And then I signed Interscope, and I was there for 5 years. And then when that fizzled out, I got a pub deal with Sony, ATV at the time, and I'm still in that deal. Ask me, depending on the year, I like it. Sometimes I hate it. I'm in my hate era right now. So it just kind of is what it is. I would love to be independent, but that's it.
And so you say you would love to be independent. Why?
On the publishing side, because they're not really doing much for me. That's another thing about this with labels and publishers. Once your person leaves, you got to find a new person, and so the person that signs you is usually the one that's going to be advocating for you in the space. When they leave, it's just kind of like you got to find someone.
You're in the graveyard.
And yeah, you're in this limbo stage, and so sometimes I'm in this limbo stage, and I've actually been more recently making more money off of licensing and TV and film, and I have a super bomb licensing company that's killing it for me. Sony's not necessarily doing that for me, so I'd rather just be independent, get all my money, and then have this licensing company.
And so really quickly, just to piggyback on that, how did you get your licensing deal? Did that come from the publishing deal? How does that happen?
Again, through just friends. I went on this trip. It was actually a queer-friendly licensing company that I found called Terra Bird that I love them and they love me and they pitch me to every music supervisor all the time, and that's how I signed up with them. And they literally, they take a percentage of the master side of my placements.
You own your masters.
But I own my masters, yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, so I feel like I need a t-shirt that says, I survived the career-killing deal, because I was, I signed to Universal Music Publishing when I was 21, and I got out at 9 years later. Ridiculous terms, luckily I recouped it, and then just hounded the CEO, went into the office, emailed her every day. Eventually, they got so annoyed that they just let me go.